Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschyatta Deshatarine Namam Vishwapadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Niti Namine Srivar Shabhanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdhaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhave Namaha Madhuryojjala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruddhapa Siddhanta Dvantaharine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshat Vairagyamurtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanugavarayate Gaura Virbhava Bhumestvam Nirdeshta Sajjana Priya Vaishtava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannathayate Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishtavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishai Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupasarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jaitam Surator Pangur Mamanda Mater Gati Matsarvasvavadam Bhojo Radha Madana Mohano Divya Dvrundaranya Kalpadrumada Srimad Ratnagara Simhasanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Vishtrali Visevyamano Smarami Sriman Rasarasarambi Vamshi Vatarastita Karsham Veno Sanir Gopir Gopinatha Shri Estunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriyam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So, welcome you to the second day of our program. Yesterday, we discussed about the first few verses of the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. In the Haribol, अंदर बैठ के बात करो ना? Anyway, I'm in Banaras today. Yesterday also I was in Varanasi. I went and had darshan of Kashi Vishwanatha. I'm in a small village nearby Banaras in a Goshala. From there I'm giving this class to all of you. So yesterday we discussed about the significance of the 13th chapter, the division of Bhagavad Gita into 3 parts, first 6, the second 6, and third last 6 chapters. And also the name of the chapters, the names of the different chapters of Bhagavad Gita. And we started with how Arjuna asked Krishna, questions. He asked 6 questions. Rather, he wants to know the meaning of these terminologies, of these 6 points. Where Arjuna tells Krishna, Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Kshetram Kshetrajnam Evacha Etad Veditum Ichchami Jnanam Geyam Cha Keshava. So as soon as Arjuna asks these 6 points, immediately Krishna answers it saying, Idam Shariram Kaunteya Kshetram Ityabhidiyate Etadyo Vetitam Prahur Kshetrajniti Tadvidaha. Idam Shariram, this body is known as Shariram. Idam Shariram Kaunteya Kshetram Ityabhidiyate. It's called Kshetra. Kshetra means body, means material nature. Why it is called Kshetra, we discussed yesterday, that because in this Kshetra means actually Keti. The word Keti comes from the word Ksheti or Kshetra. So this in a field you grow, you sow a Karela seed, then you get Karela. Karela. You sow a papaya seed, you get sweet papaya. So depending on the karma, what you do, you get the results for it. In this way, it's called as you sow, so shall you reap. There is a saying. That is why this body is called Kshetra. Etadyo veditam prahur. One who knows this is known as Kshetrajna, means the conscious living entity who is sitting in the body. Third verse, Krishna, he says that he defines what is jnana. Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidyat sarva kshetreshu bharata. Kshetrajnayor jnanam yatta jnanam matam mama. So, kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi. Along with the living entity Kshetrajna, there is one more Kshetrajna, that is Krishna, who is Paramatma, who is known as Kshetrajnam cha api mam vidhi. Along with one Kshetrajna with the soul, there is one more Kshetrajna, that is Super Soul, Krishna. Then, what is Jnana? Jnana means Kshetrajnayor Jnanam Yatta Jnanam Matam Mama. So we are discussing this particular point of how knowledge means to know matter, spirit, and controller. Technically in Sanskrit, they are known as Chitta Chittishvara. So to know an object or know something means to know how this is distinct from some other thing. So to know these three things means to know the distinction between these three things, the Veda between these three things. And yesterday we discussed about the Pancha Veda Siddhanta, the distinctions of these three things. There are 5 distinctions of these three things. Jiva Veda, Jiva Jada Veda, Jiveshwara Veda, and then you have Jada Jada Veda and Jadeshwara Veda. Jada means matter, and then Jiva means the living entity, and then Ishvara means the Supreme Lord. Knowing these three things, that is matter, spirit, and control, is called knowledge. Knowing what about these three things? First one is to know the distinctions, Veda. So, Panchamaha Veda, I taught you yesterday, and today is Sripad Madhvacharya's appearance day. It's a nice day to know that Madhvacharya gave us this Panchamaha Veda, Pancha Veda Siddhanta, distinctions, knowing these 5 distinctions. Then you have the second thing, to know the Sambandha, the relationship between these three things. You have 3 relationships. So knowing these 5 distinctions is actually known as Mahabheda. And second is to know the 3 relationships. Relationship between Jiva, the Supreme Lord, relationship between Jiva and the material nature, and relationship between the material nature and the Supreme Lord. So these 3 relationships. And then ultimately knowing what they are, that is actually known as Jnanam, Yatta Jnanam Matam Mama. So this is what we did today. So now we are going to the 4th verse. Now Krishna, he Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, can I ask? Yes, Prabhuji, can you please tell the 5 distinctions? Actually, your bandwidth is low, so
repeat the question?
Your voice is cracking.
You have good bandwidth. My Pran Prabhu. बोले नेट चाहिए, पावरफुल वाला चाहिए. I saw it was 2 Mbps. Okay, ask the question. Anyway.
Prabhuji, can you please,
By the time I will arrange one more.
thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, please forgive me, I'm very less intelligent. So can you please tell Jiva Jiva Bheda, Jiva Matter Bheda, and the third one is?
Jiva Jiva Bheda, Jiva Jada Bheda, then Jiva Matter and Jiveshwara Bheda. Then Jada Jada Bheda and Jadeshwara Bheda.
Third is Jiveshwar and
Jiva Jiva, Jiva and Jada, Jiva Ishwara, Jada Jada, Jada Ishwara.
Jada. And okay, the fifth one is? Actually, voice is
Jada and
also
Ishwara.
Jada.
Matter and
Jada and
Ishwara, Lord.
Okay.
Lord.
Thank you. Thank you. Prabhuji, shall we understand? I'm not able to understand all this. So, in the later verses, will you please make us understand this?
Whatever you don't understand, whatever you feel any doubt, ask immediately. Don't keep anything for later. Don't expect some later something like something will happen. Whatever is going to happen now only. So, any doubt regarding anything, just ask. Yeah.
Okay. So Prabhuji, Jiva Jiva Veda means what? What to understand means Jiva Jiva Veda?
Very good. Any doubt comes, just ask. If you don't understand something, just ask. So, what is the distinction between what is the meaning of Jiva Jiva Veda? That is your question.
Yes, Prabhuji.
That means individuality of the soul. Have you done second chapter, 12th verse? Or any of you remember what that verse is? Yes, speak. Second chapter, 12th verse. Without saying.
Sorry.
Natteva hamjadunasam nattam neme janadipa nachaiva avishyamaha sarve vaimata param. What is the subject matter of that verse?
They are saying that there was not a time that subject matter.
Subject matter. I don't want translation. Take your time. No hurry. No hurry. I'm not here to complete the syllabus. If you don't ask questions, you don't ask doubts in between, I'll complete my syllabus. Completed.
So the Jeev and Ishwar are eternal. Is this a subject matter?
Okay, that is one of the important subject matters, not the primary one. What is the primary subject matter? The Jiva and the living entity. Natveva aham jatu sam natvam neme janadipa nachaiva bhavishyama sarvaivaita mantra. Here, listen carefully. Krishna says, Tu aham janadipa. You, me, and all the soldiers here, neither you are born, neither you are going to die. Never was a time when they were born. Never will be the time when they will die. Isn't it? But the best way of telling something like that is that we all were never born. We all will never die, isn't it? Why should say you, me, and all the soldiers? There is a distinction between you and me. And there is a distinction between you and all the other kings. So he is talking about what? Jiveshwara Bheda and Jiva Jiva Bheda. Because Mayavadi philosophers say that all the living entities combined together, they become one God. Yeah, that means they're all God. They forgot that they're God. Now, because of Maya, they are thinking that they are Jiva. And once they remember that I'm God, so then they lose their ignorance and become knowledgeable. So, got the point?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, thank you so much. And Prabhuji, if you don't mind, can we please request that if it is okay, if you just switch off your video, so net bandwidth will be increased like this. Of course, it would be impersonal, but I don't know. Devotees are suggesting.
No. Actually, okay. Any more questions regarding this? I can go further.
Hi Krishna, Pranam Prabhuji. Am I audible?
Yeah.
So Prabhuji, you have mentioned, you have described the shloka 2.12 and wherein you just mentioned that there is a difference between Jiva Jiva and Jiveshwara. So this is clear. So I just want to understand the Jiva Jada and Jada Jada and Jadeshwar.
Okay, Jiva Jada Bheda, that you know very well. Nasato Vidyate Bhavo, Na Bhavo Vidyate Sataha. There is a distinction between body and soul, which is Krishna talks about it in the first, in the 11th verse. What does he say in the 11th verse? Second chapter.
Matter and soul.
Matter and soul. Isn't it? You understood Jiva and Jada Bheda?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Next, what else?
Jada Jada and Jadeshwar, from which slok we can connect this?
Jada and Jada. Okay, that is a little bit complicated. You have every item in this world and they have distinctions. Vaisheshika, Vishesha. Like you may have milk and you have curd. Can you say that the curd and milk are same? Though the curd came from the milk, but still the properties of the milk is different, properties of curd is different, isn't it? So in this way, there is distinction between matter and matter because of its unique qualities.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
And Jad and Ishwar, it's quite clear because Jad is inferior energy and Ishwar is Krishna. Is this the difference? We
Para
can't.
and para. Able to hear?
No, Prabhuji.
Yes, yes, Prabhuji. Yes. Para na para.
Para and apara. So you have the distinction between body and soul.
Yeah,
Yeah. So then over all 5 distinctions are over?
Yeah, this is 7.4 and 5, right?
Yes, very good.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
So we'll go to the 4th verse.
Yes.
Yes, please, Prabhuji.
Tat kshetram yaccha yadrakcha yadvikare yatascha yat sachayo yat prabhavascha tat samasena me shunu. Now, samasena me shunu. Samasena. What is the meaning of samasa?
In summary.
In summary. Me shrunu. You hear from me. In summary. The essence. In summary. About what? Number 1. About what? Number 1. Tell. See the translation. Tell me.
What a field. Field. Kshetra.
Number 1. Kshetram. About the Kshetra means what?
Body.
Very good. Then, Yacha, about the body, and then how it is constituted. Number 2. You see the translation? Now, please hear my brief description about number 1, the field of activity, the body. Number 2, how it is constituted, which is what are its constituents or what are the components. Number 3, what is yadrik, its contents. Yad vikari, its transformations. And yataha, the purpose for which it has come. And yat swarupa. And also I want to know about Cha, that is the Supreme Lord. In their swarupas and their energy, yat prabhavascha. Prabhava means their energies. So I want to know all these things. Or I'm going to speak about these things. Speak about what? Body, constituents of the body, its changes, whence it is produced, who that knower of the field of activity is, and its influences. Six points. Body, number 1. Number 2, its constituents. Number 3, changes. Number 4, whence it is produced. Whence it is produced means what is the purpose for the body? Ultimately, who is the ultimate knower or the knower of the field, knower of the body? The jiva. And what his influences are. Tat prabhava, his energies, his potencies are. So I'm going to speak about this. Basically, Krishna talks about, I'm going to speak about the relationship between all the three. Body and the soul and the super soul. So somebody read the translation. Yeah, you have any question, please ask.
Prabhuji, knower of the field of activities is Jiva and soul and super soul both?
Yes, 2 knowers are there. No? One is the Jiva as well as the super soul.
Now, please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how is it constituted, what its changes are, whence it is produced, who that knower of the field of activities is, and what his influences are.
Purport.
The Lord is describing the field of activities and the knower of the field of activities in their constitutional positions. One has to know how this body is constituted, the materials of which this body is made, under whose control this body is working, how the changes are taking place, where from the changes are coming, what the causes are, what the reasons are, what the ultimate goal of the individual soul is, and what the actual form of the individual soul is. One should also know the distinction between the individual living soul and the super soul, their different influences, their potentials, etc. One just has to understand this Bhagavad Gita directly from the description given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all this will be clarified. But one should be careful not to consider the Supreme Personality of Godhead in every body to be one with the individual soul, the jiva. This is something like equating the potent and the impotent.
So now Krishna promises Arjuna, I am going to speak to you about the relationship between the three and also what these three are. Got it? Go to the next verse. See. Rishibir Bauda Gitam Chandobir Vividai Pratak Brahma Sutra Vadaischaiva Hetumadbir Vinishchitai. Not easy words to understand. There are 3 verses in Bhagavad Gita whose purports are complicated. Number 1, 2.12. Number 2, 4.10. And 13.5. You try out reading the purport, and if you can understand something, please explain to me. So I'm going to give you, it is 7:59. Give you 5 minutes. That is till 8:05. 6 minutes. You read the purport for yourself and tell me what you understood. Just for yourself. No. If you finish reading once, read again. For yourself, not in the this thing. Okay, I think you all have read something. Okay, so time over. Okay, what did you understand? You speak out. Or if what did you not understand?
Prabhuji, in first two paragraphs,
Yes.
in first two paragraphs, what you are saying the same is written, but I could understand that there is a distinction between these three: Jiva, Ishvara, and uh, matter.
Okay,
So
very good.
all the Upanishad, different. Srila Prabhupada is quoting all different literatures, and he's saying that everywhere you will find this, the difference between all these.
Okay,
These three.
what are the different literatures?
What are?
What are the different literatures?
This is in the Vedanta. Srila Prabhupada is quoting Vedanta Sutra,
Vedanta Sutra. Okay, very good. Next.
Katha Upanishad.
Upanishad, very good. Then
The Taittiriya Upanishad. It
no,
is the
Upanishad is one category. Yeah, Upanishad. Yeah, next.
okay.
What is other scripture? Parasharas.
Yajurveda.
Parashara.
Books of religiosity. Aham Tvam Cha Tathanye.
Anchanye. Religiosity by Parashara. Okay, very good.
Yes.
So you have Smriti, Shruti, and Nyaya. All three categories of scriptures. They talk about the distinctions between matter, spirit, and controller. Now, Arjuna asks a question to Krishna. The question is, Krishna, you are going to speak so many complicated things. Has anybody else spoken this or what? Based on this, based on what are you speaking? Then Krishna says in this verse, Rishibhihi Bahuda Geetam, number 1. Chandobhihi Vividhai Pratak, number 2. Brahma Sutra Pradesh Brahma Sutra. In 3 categories of scriptures. Number 1, Rishibhihi means the scriptures written by the Rishis, which are known as Smriti. Chandobhihi means the direct original Vedas, it is Upanishads. And Brahma Sutra means the Vedanta Sutras, which are the Vedanta Sutras, written by Vyasa. Brahma Sutra, Pradesh Chaiva. The subject matter which I am going to speak to you now is based on these 3 categories of scriptures: Smriti, Shruti, and Vedanta. All 3 Vedanta Sutras. And all these things are described, especially in the Brahma Sutra, Hetumadbir Vinishchitaihi, based on the cause and effect, logic, cause and effect. Hetumadbir Vinishchitaihi. Now, if you see, Krishna is the highest authority. Still, even though Krishna himself is God, still Krishna is saying that I am not speaking from my own mental concoction. I am speaking it based on scriptures, based on 3 categories of scriptures: Shruti, Smriti, and Nyaya. 3 categories of scriptures. Now, first he says, according to different sages. Among the sages, there is one sage who is father of Parashara, who is the author of Vishnu Purana. He has written many books, and also he has written books on Dharma Shastras. In that he says, Aham Tvam Tata aham tvam cha tathanye. Aham, we, you, I, and various other living entities. Means you, I, and various living entities. There are three. And then he goes into talking about the next Chandobihi. In Chanda means Chandobihi means Vedic literatures. In Yajurveda describes about living entity in the Supreme Lord. And also Taittiriya Upanishad talks about Brahma Pricham Pratishtita. What is Brahma Pricha? Pricha means pooch. The word pooch comes from the word Pricham. Poonch means the tail. The peacock has a tail. Brahma Pucha has a tail. The tail of Brahman. The tail of Brahman has been described at 5 levels of our coverings, koshas. The 5 koshas which are described in the Upanishads, especially in Taittiriya Upanishad, there is one part called Bhrugu Valli. This comes in this Bhrugo Vai Varunihi. Bhrugu, he goes to his father Varuna and then asks one question. I want to know from where everything comes from. Then the father says, go into tapasya. Go, Bhrugu, go into tapasya. Then on the advice of his father Varuni, Bhrugu goes to do tapasya. And he sees everything comes from food. Then he understands that everything comes from food. Everything is maintained by food. And ultimately everything becomes food. Isn't it? That is the first realization of God. That is to see God as food, or food as God. That is called Annamaya Kosha. Annamaya Kosha. You see in the Prabhupada's purport which says Annamaya Kosha. Brahma Pricham Pratishtitaha. Then upon food, dependence upon food for existence. Number 1. Then one goes and says, no. Varuna told, go back and then see. If food is the cause of life, in spite of eating food, why people are dying? In spite of people getting food, why people are trying to do something else? They should be happy just getting food and be happy. Why they're getting married? Isn't it? If you're happy by eating, then why you're getting married, tell me? Why want to build a house? Why you want entertainment? So then the next level of consciousness is pranamaya. Then after pranamaya, there is jnanamaya. And there is vijnanamaya. And ultimately there is anandamaya. So thus the 5 stages of Brahman realization, known as Brahma Pucham, out of these, the first 3 are known as the field of activities of living entities, that is matter. The 4th one is the spirit soul, Vijnanamaya. And the 5th one is Anandamaya, that is the Supreme Lord. Then after talking about this, the 5 levels of 5 koshas, then the 3rd Pramana is Brahma Sutra. 3 sutras are quoted. Na viyat ashrute natma shrute paratu tat shrute, which says, first talks about living entity, the second talks about, first talks about the matter, second talks about the living entity, the 3rd sutra talks about the Supreme Lord. So the discussion about matter, spirit, and controller, that is Achit, Chit, and Ishvara, are there throughout the scriptures, throughout all formats of the scriptures. That means the whole discussion in all the scriptures, in all the categories of scriptures, are nothing but these 3. That is Achit, Chit, and Ishvara. Matter, spirit, and controller. This is the sum and substance of this particular verse. Before we go to the next verse, any questions?
Roji, I have one inquiry.
Yeah.
Could you please, explain the different terminologies, Vedic terminologies in regard to different kinds of scriptures like Upanishads, Nyaya, Vedanta Sutra, Shad Sundar, what these scriptures have and how they're different from each other. I mean,
Oh,
at least in definition wise.
okay, that is seminar altogether. But since you asked, I'm going to speak to you. Now, there are Vedas are known as Prasthana or Prasthanatraya. There are 3 Prasthanas in Vedas. 3 Prasthana. So, what are the 3 Prasthanas? First one is known as Smriti Prasthan, Shruti Prasthan. And then there is another Prasthana called known as Smriti Prasthana. And the other Prasthana known as Nyaya Prasthana. There are 3 Prasthanas. That is why Vedas, another name is Prasthana Traya. Prasthana means from where everything comes from. जहां से सब कुछ निकलता है, प्रस्थान, जहां से हम प्रस्थान हो रहे हैं, means what? From here I am leaving, means coming from here. So where all the knowledge comes from Veda, and there are 3 canons in Veda. That is, first one is Shruti, original Veda, the original 4 Vedas, which contains Brahmanakas, Aranyakas, Samhitas, and Upanishads, which never change in Swara and Krama in any millennium. In any Brahmanda, wherever you go, they don't change. They'll be as it is. Original 4 Vedas, which contain the 4 sections: the Aranyakas, the Brahmanakas, Aranyakas, Samhitas, and Upanishads. Upanishads, they come under what? Shruti Prasthana. Like one of the Upanishads which you are conversant with is Ishavasya Upanishad, where you have to chant in a particular meter, Swara. And there is a methodology of one word of the other word that is called Krama. You cannot change it in any millennium after millennium. This Brahmanda also will be same. Next creation will be same. They are eternal. They are sound. They are Shabda. It is called what? Shruti, something which has been learned by hearing. Shruti Prasthana. Ishavasya Upanishad says, Ishavasya vidam sarvam yat kinchit jagatyam jagat tena tektena manjetam gamagat tasya svithanam. So that's how it is. There is no question any change in that. Now, after the Shruti Prasthana, there is something called Smriti. Something which comes by a remembrance. Means, I hear something, like today you're going to hear this class, you're hearing this class. And after the class, maybe today night or tomorrow, one of your friends, devotee friends, will ask, hey, what did you learn yesterday? You may speak whatever you learned, but it will not be the same. It will not be added verbatim. It will not be the same exactly what it is. You may quote certain things which have add verbatim, but it will not the entire thing. You will express that knowledge in your own language, in your own way, in the way the person can understand whatever you remember. From your remembrance, from your smriti, you're speaking out. And that is called, and in this category comes all the Puranas, all the Itihasas, the Kavyas, the Pancharatras, the Vedangas, the Shad Vedangas, that is Nyaya, that is Shad Vedangas, Siksha, Vyakarana, Nirukti, Jyotish, and Kalpa. Siksha, Vyakarana, Chanda, Siksha, Vyakarana, Chanda, Nirukti, and Jyotish, and ultimately Kalpa. So these are the 6 Vedangas. They come under the Smriti Shastras. And you have Tantra. They also come under the Smriti Shastras. Puranas, Itihasas, Pancharatras, all these things. Now, there is another section of the category of scriptures called the Nyaya Prasthana, which Vedanta Sutras, the Shad Darshanas, they come under the Nyaya Prasthana. Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Purvimamsa, Uttarvimamsa. These are all coming under the Nyaya Prasthana. Okay. Now I have confused you enough, just for simplifying entire thing. Shruti Prasthana means it gives you the answer for a question you ask, what to do. Smriti Prasthana gives the answer to the question, why, how to do. Nyaya Prasthana gives the answer to the question, why to do. What, how, and why? These are only 3 questions. So these 3 questions answered in these 3 prasthanas. That is why Krishna, he says, Rishibhihi, that is Smriti Prasthana. Next, Chandobhihi, Shruti Prasthana. And Brahma Sutra Pradaischeva, Nyaya Prasthana. Got it?
Thank you, Guruji.
Prabhuji, how to understand? It's easy to understand Shruti and Smriti. Nyaya Prasthana, Nyaya means
Now, for example, somebody says, chant Hare Krishna. If you're very simple-hearted, nice devotee, have good sanskars, what is the next question you ask?
how to
How to
chant.
chant? Okay. If somebody is a cricket person like me, what will he say? What
Why
will he
will
say?
I?
Why should I chant?
Why should I
Isn't
chant?
it? Then you have to speak Vedanta to him. To such an extent, he starts crying, stop, stop, I'll chant now. That's called Nyaya Prasthana. Isn't it?
Thanks.
Like somebody asks you a question, then I go on speaking to such an extent, you say, stop, stop, no, 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 I understood everything. Go further, let's go further. Like that. That's like that. Okay.
Thanks.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you so much for this elaborate description. I will note it down by tomorrow. Prabhuji, you mentioned that Padma Puran was written by Parashar.
Vishnu.
Sorry, Vishnu Puran was written by. So till now, I have what I've understood by hearing that maybe this is called Smriti, that I've heard may not be correctly, that all the 18 Puranas were written by Vedavyasi, or some of them were written by
All
Parashar.
were written by Vedavyas except one. He took the Vishnu Purana written by his father and kept it as it is. He didn't change.
Okay.
And his father, Parashara, was Vyasa for the previous Chaturyuga. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, now Sankhya. 2 verses, the entire Sankhya is described. Mahabhutanya buddhiravyaktameva cha indriyani jashaikam cha panchachendriya gochara ichcha dvesha sukam dukkham sangat chetanadriti etat chetram samasena savikaram udahritam. 2 verses together. 2 verses together means that they belong to one subject. What is the subject which Krishna says I have spoken in these 2 verses? Etat kshetram. See the 7th verse, 3rd line. I have spoken to you, kshetram. How did I speak this kshetra? Samasena. Samasa means again in a condensed way, in a summary way. I spoke about kshetra, and along with the kshetra, I spoke about what? Savikaram, their transformations. When the body interacts with this world, there are some experiences. I gave you everything in a brief. So this is called Sankhya. Sankhya means to know about the world, and when the living entity interacts with the world, his experiences. That is called Sankhya. So let us see what is this Sankhya which Krishna has explained. Sankhya means to count. Let us count. Sankhya, the word Sankhya comes from the word Sankhya. That is, Sankhya means counting. Mahabhutani. How many Mahabhutas are there? The 5 great elements. Then next, Ahankara. 6th. Buddhi. 7. See the verse properly. Avyakta. That is Pradhana. Avyakta. Unmanifest. Then, Indriyani Dashekam Cha. How many Indriyas are there? Dasha Eka. Dasha means 10.
11.
Eka means 1. 10
One.
plus 1. How much? 11.
11.
How many became?
11.
A total how many? In Mahabhutani. Mahabhuta 5. In ahankara, buddhi, avyakta. Isn't it? 8.
36.
8. 8. 8 plus 11.
19.
19. Pancha chendriya gochara. There are 5. What are indriya gochara means what?
Sense of
The sense object. The object of the senses. The sense objects. Indriya vishaya vastu. Or the subtle forms of the gross elements. That is why they are called tanmatras. They are called subtle forms of the gross element. What is the subtle form of earth?
taste.
Smell, taste.
Sorry.
Taste. Subtle form of earth is taste.
No, water. It's water.
Subtle form of earth is water.
Smell.
No.
Subtle form of earth is smell.
Smell.
So subtle form of water is
Taste.
Taste.
Subtle form of water is taste.
Water is taste.
and subtle form of earth, fire is
Heat.
Heat. Spark.
fire. Subtle form of fire.
Roop.
Form.
Smell.
Subtle form of air.
Purse.
Sparsh, touch. And subtle form of ether.
It's sound, right? Sound.
Still doubt. Sound, right? Still doubt.
For either.
Now,
Sound.
who can name the 5 senses in line?
Eyes, ears, nose.
Eyes in line.
Senses.
I want to know the 5 senses in line.
Smell, taste.
Earth, smell, nose. Water, taste, tongue. Fire, form, eyes. Air, touch, skin. Ether, sound, ear. Now name the 5 elements in line. Five senses, sorry. Name the 5 senses in line. Just I mentioned.
Nose,
Nose,
Tongue.
tongue,
Eyes, skin, ear.
eyes, skin, and
Ear. Ear.
very good.
Ear.
Now you know when somebody asks you what are the 5 senses, in which order you have to tell, in which line you have to tell. You cannot just tell what you remember. So there is an order in which the elements are placed, and you have to relate everything in that particular order. So total how many elements became?
24.
24.
Mahabhuta, Pancha Mahabhuta. Then Ahankara, Buddhi, Avyakta. Then you have what? 11 senses. 8 plus 11. How much?
2 plus 11, 19.
19.
Now, what are the 11 senses?
5 karmendriya, 5 gyanendriya, and 1 mind.
1 mind. Very good. Panchatchendri Gochara, Indriyana Dashikamcha, Panchatchendri Gochara, and 5. Then when the senses interact with the sense objects, you see something beautiful, then you have Ichha. Something which you see ghastly, then you have Dvesha. You taste something sweet, oh, nice Rasgulla. And even why don't you have another nice drink? We made a nice special drink for you. And I say, oh, is it? He drinks it. It is Karela juice. Desha. So Ichha, Desha. So when the senses interact with the sense objects, you develop 2 feelings. What are they? Ichha, Desha. So when you get something what you have ichha for, that is called sukha. And when you get something for which you have dvesha, it is called dukkha. So this is called the interaction, when this is called the vikaram, savikaram. You see the fifth verse, there is a word called vikara. Oh, sorry, fourth verse. Yad vikarascha tat kshetram yaccha yadriksha yad vikari. Got it?
Yes.
So now, when you are very happy, getting something which makes you very happy, it is only the interaction with the senses and sense objects that doesn't mean the soul is happy. The soul has nothing to do with these interactions. So all these interactions are experienced in the consciousness called chit, experience in consciousness, contaminated consciousness, which is known as Sangada Chetana. Sangada Chetana means the aggregate Chetana, aggregate life symptom, which seems to be as a soul, but it is not. So I'll ask you one question. Now I am thirsty. Now tell me, who is thirsty? The tongue? Where did you feel the thirst?
In the body, throat.
Throat. You felt the thirst in throat. Acha. Any more answers?
Mind.
Because the soul is present in the body, then you have all these desires or
You didn't answer my question. I'm asking, where did you feel the thirst?
Tongue.
Tongue. Acha. But the tongue is material. How does the tongue feel the thirst?
Consciousness, Prabhu.
Huh?
Consciousness.
Yeah, which consciousness?
Body consciousness.
Body means contaminated consciousness, which is technically known as chitta. What is it known as? Chitta. So in the Bhagavatam, when the description of the subtle body is made, the subtle body, as we know, is mind, intelligence, and false ego. But when you go to Bhagavatam, you'll find mind, intelligence, false ego, and chitta, consciousness. Mana, buddhi, ahankar, and chitta. So we'll talk about it later when you do the Bhakti Vaibhav. But for now, you should know Sangada Chetana. So no need to read the translation because we have done the translation. We go to the next one.
Roji,
Ah.
there is one element which avyakta, unmanifested. What is this element?
Okay, very good question. So you have material energy of Krishna. You heard about it. That is in the Bhagavad Gita 7th chapter. Krishna says, Apare amitas tvanyam prakritim vidhime para, which he says, Bhumirapono vayurkammana budre vacha ahankarmiti me bhinna prakriti rashtada. This bhinna prakriti or material nature, external energy, is known as pradhana, which is known as avyakta, the unmanifested state of the three modes of material nature, that is known as avyaktam, or other words, it is known as pradhana. When Krishna looks at pradhana, where the three modes of material nature are sleeping, from his eyes two rays come. One eye, the Jiva Shakti, from the other eye, Kala Shakti. They go and then connect to this pradhana, which is where the modes of nature are sleeping. So when these two rays go and hit pradhana, and the pradhana becomes agitated, because when you wake up, a person is sleeping, they become agitated, and it takes a form called Mahat Tattva. That is called Mahat Tattva. From Mahat Tattva, Ahankara comes. From Ahankara, from the mode of goodness, when the Ahankara is projected, mind comes and the presiding demigods come. From Ahankara is projected to through mode of passion, then the working senses and the senses manifest. When 10 senses manifest. When the Ahankara is projected to through mode of ignorance, the sense objects and the gross elements manifest. The whole creation is manifested. So the first thing, the topmost thing, from where the entire creation manifests, that is called Pradhana. Pradhana means first, Pradhan. So thing from which the entire creation manifests, that is called Pradhana. Okay, that is called Avyakta. Another name of Pradhana is Avyakta, where the unmanifested state or the modes of material nature. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So,
Next.
Prabhuji, this pradhana can be understood as like the source from which the material cosmic manifestation is cosmic world is manifested.
It is the material energy of Krishna. That's all.
Okay.
Prabhuji, what is difference between chitta and mana?
Difference between atta and puri. You have atta. From that you make puri. Somebody wants puri, you make puri and serve. Somebody makes paratha, you make paratha and serve. Somebody wants chapati, you make chapati and serve. And all the three, puri, paratha and chapati, has the same source called atta. So this chitta, when it does the function of mind, is called mind. The chitta does the function of intelligence, it's called intelligence. And the chitta does the function of ahankara, it's called ahankara. Okay.
In pure form, Prabhuji, when the soul is pure, like in spiritual world, so still that exists and or Sat-Chit and Ananda.
That is pure chitta. Pure chitta, man. That is chitta. That is pure chitta is existing. The Krishna consciousness. There is no contaminated consciousness. It is not Sangada Chetana. You see, in this 7th verse, there is one word, Sangada Chetana. That is called Chitta. It is not, in the spiritual world, it is not Sangada. It is just pure consciousness. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
Go to the next cluster of verses. Amanittam madambittam ahimsa kshantirarjavam acharyopasanam saucham stairyam matu nigraha indriyartheshu vairagyam ahankara evacha gyan janma mrityujara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam adhaktir anaviswangaha putradara grihadisho nityam cha samadittvam ishtanishto pattisho Mai chananya yogena bhaktir vyavicharini viviktadesha sevittam maritarjana samsadi Adhyatma Gyanityatvam Tattva Darshanam Yatachanam Titi Proktam Agyanam Atonyata. So Krishna gives a list of 19 items. And then he says, Yetat Gyanam. All these things are called Gyana. This is called knowledge. And any other thing, Anyatha. Yetato Anyata Agyanam. Anything else other than this is what? Is Agyana only. There is no question of any Jnana. It's complete Agyana. Yato Anyatha. Apart from this, everything is Agyana. Okay. So, these are the qualities which are described by Krishna, which is not the interaction of the modes of nature. All these things are not the interaction of the field of activity, but they are process of knowledge. Okay, what you do is, each one of you read one paragraph. Each one read one paragraph.
This process of knowledge is sometimes misunderstood by less intelligent men as being the interaction of field of activity. But actually, this is not the real process. But actually, this is the real process of knowledge. If one accepts this process, then the possibility of approaching the supreme truth exists. This is not the interaction of the 24 elements as described before. This is actually the means to get out of the entanglement of those elements. This is actually the means to get out of the entanglement of those elements. The embodied soul is entrapped by the body, which is a casing made of the 24 elements. And the process of knowledge as described here is the means to get out of it. Of all the descriptions of the process of knowledge, the most important point is described in the first line of the 11th verse. Mai chananya yogena bhaktir avyabhicharini. The process of knowledge terminates in unalloyed devotional service to the Lord. So if one does not approach or is not able to approach the transcendental service of the Lord, then the other 19 items are of no particular value. But if one takes to a devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, the other 19 items automatically develop within him. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 5.18.12, śāstrī bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarver gunesh tatra samasate suraha. All the good qualities of knowledge develop in one who has attained the stage of devotional service. The principle of accepting a spiritual master, as mentioned in the 8th verse, is essential. Even for one who takes to devotional service, it is most important. Transcendental life begins when one accepts a bona fide spiritual master. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, clearly states here that this process of knowledge is the actual path. Anything speculated beyond this is nonsense.
Okay, next.
As for the knowledge outlined here, the items may be analyzed as follows. Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. The material conception of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others. But from the point of view of a man in perfect knowledge, who knows that he is not this body, anything, honor or dishonor, pertaining to this body is useless. One should not be hankering after this material deception. People are very anxious to be famous for their religion, and consequently, sometimes it is found that without understanding the principles of religion, one enters into some group which is not actually following religious principles and then wants to advertise himself as a religious mentor. As for actual advancement in spiritual science, one should have a test to see how far he is progressing. He can judge by these items.
Next. In between, when you are reading something, if you have some question, just anybody can say Hare Krishna and ask. Okay.
Non-violence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body, but actually non-violence means not to put other into distress. People in general are trapped by ignorance in material concept of life and perpetually suffer material pains. So unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. One should try his best to distribute real knowledge of the people, so that they may become enlightened and live these metal entanglements, that is in violence.
What
Hare
is the meaning of
Krishna.
violence?
Without giving distress to others.
No. If you don't preach, you are killing people. If you are preaching by killing, you are saving them. Okay? Yeah. Next.
Prabhupada mentioned like this, distress means.
What is Prabhupada mentioned? Read again. I know you would not get it by reading. Read again. What is non-violence?
Non-violence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body. Actually, non-violence means not to put other into distress.
Read further.
People in
Then-
general are trapped by ignorance in the material concept of life and perpetually suffer material pains.
Yeah.
So, unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, okay. One is
Now you got it?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
So if you don't preach Krishna consciousness, you are killing people, you are a murderer. You should put in jail. You are a kuni, you are a dacoit, you are a murderer. So preach. Yes. Next paragraph.
Tolerance. Tolerance means that one should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. If one is engaged in the advancement of the spiritual knowledge, there will be so many insult and much dishonor from others. This is expected because material nature is so constituted. Even a boy like Prahlada, who only 5 years old, was engaged in the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, was engaged when his father became an antagonistic to his devotion. The father tried to kill him in so many ways, but Prahlada tolerated him. So there may be many impediments to making advancement in spiritual knowledge, but we should be tolerant and continue our progress with determination.
Next.
Simplicity means that without diplomacy, one should be so straightforward that he can disclose the real truth even to an enemy. As for acceptance of the spiritual master, that is essential, because without the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, one cannot progress in the spiritual science. One should approach the spiritual master with all humility and offer him all services so that he will be pleased to bestow his mercy upon the disciple. Because a bona fide spiritual master is a representative of Krishna, if he bestows any blessings upon his disciple, that will make the disciple immediately advanced without the disciples following the regulatory principles. Or the regulatory principles will be easier for one who has served the spiritual master without reservation.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can I ask question, Prabhu?
Yeah, anytime anybody asks, any hand comes to mind, just ask. Don't raise your hand and ask.
Yes, Prabhu.
Just ask. Break.
Prabhu, we give so much importance to tolerance. What type of tolerance as a devotee we should have? What type of we can practically use these tolerance powers? Because Trinadi Pishunachana, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also explained about tolerance. And so many devotees also told us to tolerate. What to tolerate, what to not tolerate, Prabhu. That
What to tolerate and what not to tolerate. Very good question. You should tolerate others' ignorance and never tolerate your ignorance. You should be intolerant towards your ignorance and always be tolerant to others' ignorance, because they do all kinds of nonsense because of ignorance. And I also do all kinds of nonsense because of ignorance. And you should never be tolerant about your own ignorance. That is called mode of ignorance. Okay? This is the first instruction which Krishna gives in the Bhagavad Gita. The first practical instruction given by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita is tolerance. Which verse? 214.
Matra Sparshas.
Prasha.
Very good. Matra Sparshas Kuntaya Sitoshna Sukhadukhada Agama Payanathyastan Didikshasya Bharata. What is the purpose of tolerating? Why we should tolerate? 15th verse. 215. Yamhina vidantyete purusham purushashabha samadukka sukham dhiram samrutattvaya kalpate. That person who tolerates, he attains amrutatva. Amrutatva means immortality, liberation. The purpose of tolerance is liberation. And somebody may say, how long I should tolerate? Kab tak? Till the time you are not liberated. Why? Because that is the only way to get liberation. Okay. Now, how to tolerate neglect? Best way to tolerate is what? Neglect. Okay. Next paragraph.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, in the last line it is written, regulative principles will be easier for one who has served the spiritual master without reservation. So what does this without reservation mean?
Without conditions. I'll serve the spiritual master only when I get free time. I'll serve my spiritual master only when he appreciates me for whatever I'm going to do. I'll serve my spiritual master only in this area, not in that area of service. I'll only serve my spiritual master by accepting his Maha Prasad. I'll only serve my spiritual master without any reservations, means all these things. Unconditional, complete surrender. Essentially, it is for his pleasure. Every action of mine should be for his pleasure, not for my sense enjoyment, not according to my convenience, according to his convenience. Okay, next paragraph.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji,
Yeah.
I also want to ask one thing, that I'm afraid of asking my personal question from my spiritual master. So I'm like there are 3 types of disciples. So I'm a lower one, that if he says me to do this, and if that would be like pathar pe lakeer, so I will have to follow it, and I'm afraid of it. So how to come out of this? I just want to, from last many years, I want to come out of it, but I'm not able to. So how to get that surrender?
So you should ask this question to your material master, because your problems are material. So one material master who gives you spiritual guidance. So your spiritual, when you say spiritual master, refers to your Diksha Guru. For most of us in ISKCON. Apart from him, there are many Siksha Gurus who give us guidance in a practical way. So you should approach them. Directly approach the spiritual master with material questions is only for somebody who is in direct service to him. We are indirectly serving, many of us. So then we approach through him, or may not approach him, we can approach his representative who act as your Siksha Gurus. So the relationship between a disciple and a Diksha Guru is very formal, with Maryada. But the relationship between a disciple and a Siksha Guru, generally Siksha Guru in our temples is temple president, or the temple counselors, or senior devotees in your temple congregation. They act as the Siksha Gurus. So with them, you can be friendly. So you can bargain with them also. Like you say, Patthar ka lakir, Bhaktar ke upar lakir, that is for Diksha Guru. Then naturally, definitely, there are certain things which you need to have back and forth. I cannot do this, I am not able to do this, I'll try my best to do. These things you cannot do with the Diksha Guru. The system is already there. The system is to have Siksha Gurus, with whom you can be of relationship, is more of a friend. There is more of a master. Here is more of a friend. So you should have somebody who can do that.
And if it is not material, Prabhuji, then if it is the spiritual thing, then?
Oh yeah, spiritual material, because for a devotee, material is also spiritual. For a non-devotee, spiritual is also material. When a non-devotee sees Krishna, he thinks he's material. But for a devotee, then because he wants to attain Krishna, then whatever problems he faces, though they are material, but they need to be solved for attaining spiritual purposes. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Read the next paragraph. Yeah.
Prabhu, until we please our Guru Maharaj, can we go to Golokdham?
He is the person who takes you.
In Prabhupada says that 16 rounds and 4 regular principles and these all things will make you get the
Why
Guru.
16 rounds? One name is one word, Krishna is enough to attain Krishna Prema. One is enough. But in that 16 rounds every day, even one with love, that's enough. So we are practicing. Prabhupada never said 16 rounds. What did he say? Minimum 16 rounds. No scripture says you chant 16 rounds. But Prabhupada made minimum 16. Because in an organization, you need to have some standards. That is why I told 16. Whereas Krishna says, Tatam Kirtayanto Mam. Okay. Read the next paragraph.
Cleanliness is essential. Cleanliness is essential for making advancement in spiritual life. There are two kinds of cleanliness, external and internal. External cleanliness means taking a bath, but for internal cleanliness, one has to think of Krishna always and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The process cleans the accumulated dust of past karma from the mind.
You're not a Bengali. Why you say Ramo Ramo?
Rama Rama.
I heard
Oh, Ram Ram. I heard in one of my, I was learning verses in a class, so that teacher said that Rama, I should pronounce complete Rama. Ma means if there is a Aka Danda also, so I should pronounce Rama, not Ram Ram. Ram Ram Hare, I should not. Is it right? Thank you.
Say it. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Not Ramo. Okay.
Yes.
Bengalis do that. Next.
Thanks.
Read further.
Steadiness means that one should be very determined to make progress in spiritual life. Without such determination, one cannot make tangible progress. And self-control means that one should not accept anything which is detrimental to the path of spiritual progress. One should become accustomed to this and reject anything which is against the path of spiritual progress. This is real renunciation. The senses are so strong that they are always anxious to have sense gratification. One should not cater to these demands, which are not necessary. The senses should only be gratified to keep the body fit, so that one can discharge his duty in advancing in spiritual life. The most important and uncontrollable sense is the tongue. If one can control the tongue, then there is every possibility of controlling the other senses. The function of the tongue is to taste and to vibrate. Therefore, by systematic regulation, the tongue should always be engaged in tasting the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna and chanting Hare Krishna. As far as the eyes are concerned, they should not be allowed to see anything but the beautiful form of Krishna. That will control the eyes. Similarly, the ear should be engaged in hearing about Krishna, the nose in smelling the flowers offered to Krishna. This is the process of devotional service. And it is understood here that Bhagavad Gita is simply expounding the science of devotional service. Devotional service is the main and sole objective. Unintelligent commentators on the Bhagavad Gita try to divert the mind of the readers to other subjects. But there is no other subject in Bhagavad Gita than devotional service.
Next.
False ego. False ego means accepting this body as oneself. When one understands that he is not his body and his spirit soul, he comes to his real ego. Ego is there. False ego is condemned but not real ego. In the Vedic literature, Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 1.4510, it is said, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, I am spirit, this I am. The sense of self also exists in the liberated stage of self-realization. The sense of I am is ego, but when the sense of I am is applied to this false body, it is false ego. When the sense of self is applied to reality, that is real ego. There are some philosophers who say we should give up our ego, but we cannot give up our ego because ego means identity. We ought, of course, to give up the false identification with the body. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I have a question in the previous determination. One should be determined to make progress in spiritual life. So, what is the thing that shakes or breaks our determination when we are trying to be determined in any spiritual in any activity that we are doing, or is it that we are not tangibly trying to be determined? So, how to overcome this, like reading or hearing or anything if we are trying for something?
The reason for our determination being shaken up is because we expect things to happen very fast. We don't have patience. We want the results, immediate results. I have to get it. So this is because we think that we get results because of my endeavor. We don't get results because of our endeavor. Of course, endeavor is one of the part. Other is mercy. And Krishna is not bound to show mercy to you. It's his free will. So you try to control Krishna because you want immediate results. So depending on the mercy of Krishna is more important. So if you're not dependent on mercy of Krishna, you feel that I am the controller and I have done something, so I have to get the results. I did not get it. So then you lose. What is the use? I did so much and forget about it. So dependency on mercy of Krishna is the first thing to be determined. Yeah. So, only those who are, I can see the faces, they are reading. Those who are kept their video off, they are not reading at all. That means, I don't know where they are. Okay, anyhow, next paragraph.
Prabhuji, just as you said, do the results of our spiritual activities in sadhaka stage depend on our karmas? Karma?
No, bhakti is transcendental. But the obstacles what you face while doing bhakti, that is based on your karma, which is basically manifestation different forms of sattva, rajas, tama. So somebody is feeling different kinds of anarthas by performing bhakti. Those obstacles which are created, the situations which are created in the path of your devotion, that is according to your karma. But bhakti in itself is transcendent. So don't get confused between bhakti and the situations which you face during the process of bhakti. Somebody, because of their bad karma, may have born in a poor family. Somebody may have been because of some good karma, they have been born in a very rich family. But a person who is born in a poor family, he may offer one flower to Krishna with great love and then make Krishna very happy. And somebody born in a rich family, he thinks that Krishna told in the Bhagavad Gita to offer flower, leaf, water, patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. So Krishna will be happy with flower. So I give one flower to Krishna, and I will spend maybe 10 lakh rupees and buy a sofa set which has got golden arms and golden things for me to sleep, for me to sit. So Krishna will not be happy with that. So according to your karma, whatever may be the situation, you can please Krishna. You may be born in a poor family. So it doesn't depend on your karma. Okay.
Thank you, Tori. And I have one more question in simplicity. It is that one can simplicity mean he is so straightforward that he can disclose the real truth even to the enemy. So isn't it probably this thing is against our welfare? I mean, if we can disclose, there are a lot of things that we don't disclose to others. So is it like how we should apply this?
It is not that you go on taking a loudspeaker and go to your enemies and tell, I want to disclose my heart, but disclose my heart. When some situations come where naturally that you don't mind doing that, that's called simplicity. Of course, there's something of gravity also that people are unable to understand what's going on in your mind. So simplicity and gravity, these are two contradictory things which are to be harmonized by a devotee according to the time, place, and circumstance. Okay? That's the thing. Diplomacy also. You have to use diplomacy in service of Krishna. So depending on the situation, you have mutually contradictory qualities being manifest at the same time. Like for example, one should not be angry. It should be peaceful. But at the same time, when you find a devotee being harassed by somebody, then you become angry. Hanuman became angry, Arjuna became angry. So contradictory qualities can mutually exist in a devotee in service of Krishna. Okay. So who else will read next?
One should try to understand the distress of accepting birth or death, old age, and disease. There are descriptions in various Vedic literatures of birth. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the world of unborn, the child's stay in the womb of the mother, its suffering, etc., are all very graphically described. It should be thoroughly understood that birth is distressful because we forget how much distress we have suffered within the womb of the mother. We do not make any solution to the repetition of birth and death. Similarly, at the time of death, there are all kinds of sufferings, and they are also mentioned in the authoritative scriptures. These should be discussed, and as far as the disease and old age are concerned, everyone gets practical experience. No one wants to be diseased and no one wants to become old, but there is no avoiding this unless we have a pessimistic view of this material life. Considering the distress of birth, death, old age, and disease, there is no impetus for our making advancement in spiritual life.
Next paragraph.
As for detachment from children, wife, and home, it is not meant that one should have no feelings for these. They are natural objects of affection, but when they are not favorable to spiritual progress, then one should not be attached to them. The best process for making the home pleasant is Krishna consciousness. If one is in full Krishna consciousness, he can make his home very happy because this process of Krishna consciousness is very easy. One need only chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Accept the remnants of the foodstuffs offered to Krishna, have some discussion on books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and engage oneself in deity worship. These four things will make one happy. One should train the members of his family in this way. The family members can sit down morning and evening and can chant together Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If one can mold his family life in this way to develop Krishna consciousness, following these four principles, then there is no need to change from family life to renounced life. But if it is not congenial, not favorable for spiritual advancement, then family life should be abandoned. One must sacrifice everything to realize or serve Krishna, just as Arjuna did. Arjuna did not want to kill his family members, but when he understood that these family members were impediments to his Krishna realization, he accepted the instruction of Krishna and fought and killed them. In all cases, one should be detached from the happiness and distress of family life, because in this world, one can never be fully happy or fully miserable.
Happiness and distress are concomitant factors of material life. One should learn to tolerate, as advised in Bhagavad Gita. One can never restrict the coming and the going of happiness and distress. So one should be detached from the materialistic way of life and be automatically equipoised in both cases. Generally, when we get something desirable, we are very happy. And when we get something undesirable, we are distressed. But if we are actually in the spiritual position, these things will not agitate us. To reach that stage, we have to practice unbreakable devotional service. Devotional service to Krishna without deviation means engaging oneself in 9 processes of devotional service: chanting, hearing, worshipping, offering respect, etc. As described in the last verse of the 9th chapter. That process should be followed.
Okay, next.
Naturally, when one is adapted to spiritual way of life, he will not want to mix with materialistic men. That would go against his grain. One may test himself by seeing how far he is inclined to live in a solitary place without unwanted association. Naturally, a devotee has to taste from unnecessary sporting or cinema going or enjoying some social function because he understands that these are simply a waste of time. There are many research scholars and philosophers who study sex life or some other subject, but according to Bhagavad Gita, such research work and philosophical speculation have no value. There is more or less that is more or less nonsensical. According to Bhagavad Gita, one should make research by philosophical discretion into the nature of the soul. One should make research to understand the self that is recommended here.
As far as
As far as, as far as self-realization is concerned, it is clearly stated here that the Bhakti Yoga is specially practical. As soon as there is a question of devotion, one must consider the relationship between the super soul and the individual soul. The individual soul and the super soul cannot cannot be one. At least not at least not in the bhakti conception, the devotional conception of life. This service of the individual soul to the supreme soul is eternal, nityam, as it is clearly stated. So bhakti or the devotional service is eternal. One should be established in that philosophical conviction.
In the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.11, this is explained Vedanti tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam advayam. Those who are actually knowers of the absolute truth know that the self is realized in three different phases as Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagwan. Bhagwan is the last word in the realization of the absolute truth. Therefore, one should reach up to that platform of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus engage in devotion service of the Lord. That is the perfection of knowledge. Beginning from practical humility up to the point of realization of the Supreme Truth, the Absolute Personality of Godhead, this process is just like a staircase beginning from the ground floor and going up to the top floor. Now on this staircase, there are so many people who have reached the first floor, the second or the third floor, etc. But unless one reaches the top floor, which is the understanding of Krishna, he is at a lower stage of knowledge. If anyone wants to compete with God and at the same time make advancement in spiritual knowledge, he will be frustrated. It is clearly stated that without humility, understanding is not truly possible. To think oneself God is most fucked up. Although the living entity is always being kicked by the stringent laws of material nature, he still thinks I am God because of ignorance. The beginning of knowledge, therefore, is amanitva, humility. One should be humble and know that he is subordinate to the Supreme Lord. Due to rebellion against the Supreme Lord, one becomes subordinate to material nature. One must know and be convinced of this truth.
Jai. So we have a small recap of what all we did. That is these qualities. Amanitva means not expecting respect from others. That is how the human life starts. If you expect respect from others, then it's going to be very, very dangerous for you. Very difficult life for you. You'll be suffering at every step. If you don't expect respect, then you expect happiness. If you're expecting respect, then you'll never be happy. Adambitva means to perform activities just for show off. Show off. I'm chanting, I'm doing this, just to show off. That's called Adambitva, Damba. Ahimsa means that Ahimsa means to preach Krishna consciousness. If you are not preaching Krishna consciousness, that means you are actually committing Himsa. Shanti means and somebody insults you, but you are still smiling. If somebody criticizes you, you're smiling. Something very horrible has happened to your life, but still you're smiling. Somebody, you got a report that tomorrow morning you're going to die because of cancer, still you smile at the report. That's called Arjo. That's called Shanti. But like our Parikshit Maharaj. Arjo means sinful, you're straightforward. Archarya Pasana, which is actually the fulcrum of the entire Krishna consciousness, that is, serve the spiritual master without any reservations. That is Tadvidhi Pranipatena, Pariprasthena, Sevaya. 3 aspects of Acharya Upasana. Approaching humility and Pariprasthena, inquiring and serving. Then Saucham means purity. Purity, internal and external purity, both. Stairya means to be very steady in spiritual progress. You know that tomorrow, today, or if not today, tomorrow, if not tomorrow, day after tomorrow, I am going to be successful. Atmanigraha means you control your mind and senses and withdraw your mind and senses from sense objects which are an obstacle for attaining spiritual life. Vairagya, Indriyarteshu Vairagya means lack of distaste, lack of taste for sense objects. Anhankara means to give the identification that I am this body and then anything related to the body, material objects. Doshanu Darshanam means contemplate fully on the faults of birth and see that how birth, the whole world is nothing but full of faults. And this is not a fit place for a gentleman to stay. And asakti, asakti, lack of attention for any the relatives, etc., who are natural objects of affection. You just feel that is my responsibility, so I'm just doing my responsibility. Anabhiswangaha means lack of absorption in happiness and distress, even when they're present. Happiness is there, okay, fine, nice, very good. Distress is there, okay, like that. And samachitta. Samachitta means in both favorable and unfavorable situations, you are having compassion to everyone. Avyavicharini Bhakti, which is the third aspect of the most important thing. You have the fulcrum here, Acharya Upasana, the seesaw. The more the humility, higher the bhakti. Lesser the humility, lesser the bhakti. And both should be based on the fulcrum called Acharya Upasana. And constantly being engrossed in Tattvajnanartha Darshanam, that is to be engrossing your mind in study of the scriptures. Etat Jnanam. And all the other things are ajnana. What is the word jnana? In this verse referring to the process by which the Lord is known, that is called jnana. It is not the impersonal knowledge. Anyatha, apart from this, anyatha means what has been listed here. Other things are all ignorance only. So, Krishna has spoken so many things till now, isn't it? Now go to the next verse. Geyam yattat pravakshyami yatyatvam vritamashnude anadimat param brahmana sattanna saduchyate. Now, if you know that Krishna, he told that I am going to, Krishna asked one question. Prakritim purusham cheva kshetram kshetrameva cha etad vetu vichami jnanam jneyam. Now, jnana has been described. What is knowledge? Now, jneya is described. Jneya. Jneya means the object to be known. And what is the object to be known? That is the living entity. Of course, its relationship with the Supreme Lord. So, the Supreme Lord also. So, jnana is been described. Jneya, the object of knowledge. Object of knowledge is being described. So, please know. Jneyam yattat pravakshyami. I am going to speak to the jneya, which is jnana yad jnatva amritamushnate. By knowing this, you attain amritatva. Amritatva means liberation. Anadi matparam brahma na sattanna saduchyate. This object of knowledge, that is Paramatma, Atma, is having no beginning. Anadi, matparam, dependent on me. and it is beyond Tannasat Uchate, beyond the cause and effect of this material world. So please read the second paragraph of the purport.
The Supreme Lord as Super Soul is also stated in the Vedic literature. Svetaswara Upanishad 6.16 to Pradhana Kshetra Pati Gunesha, the chief knower of the body and the master of the three modes of material nature. In Smriti, it is said, Dasa Bhuto Harir Eva Nanya Seva Kadachanam. The living entities are eternally in the service of the Supreme Lord. This is also confirmed by the Lord Chaitanya in his teaching. Therefore, description of Brahman mentioned in this verse is in the relation to the individual soul. And when the word Brahman is applied to the living entity, it is also understood that he is Vijnana Brahman as opposed to the Ananda Brahma. Ananda Brahma is the Supreme Brahman, personality of Godhead.
Now, what is the meaning of Brahman? Tell me. What is the meaning of Brahman? It can refer to the living entity. It can refer to the Supreme Lord. It can refer to matter also. So that is where the confusion comes. The Mayavadis and the Vaishnavas, they have a problem. Both of them have a problem. The Vaishnavas have a problem because the scriptures, they address the Supreme Lord also as Brahman, the living entity also as Brahman, the material nature also as Brahman. So today is Madhvacharya's appearance day. So I'll tell you a story of Madhvacharya regarding this. Of course, the story is less, philosophy is more. Once Madhvacharya was going on to different places along with his library, contained full of books. And during the time, there was one Shankaracharya, not Adi Shankaracharya. So he was very much afraid that this Madhvacharya is going everywhere and preaching, and all the Brahmanas are becoming his disciples and followers. What's going to happen to our philosophy? So he thought the source of Madhvacharya's powers or intelligence are his books. So then he thought, what did he think? Let us steal all the books of Madhvacharya. So he sent few dacoits and then they all stole the books of Madhvacharya. Then Madhvacharya complained to the king nearby. The king, he sent his soldiers and caught the thieves, and he got all the books and then kept it in his house, in his palace. And he told Madhvacharya, please come to our palace and you can take the books. We got the books. We actually wanted to bring Madhvacharya to his books, to his palace. Madhvacharya came, this king, Jayasimha, the king of Kasargoda, or Kumbla, in one sense, which is there. If you go down south of Mangalore, there's one place called Kumbla. He was ruling the entire area, which even at the time Kasargoda was also in his area. So then Madhvacharya came, he welcomed him, made him, did the Pada Puja and all. Then he asked Madhvacharya one question. In the Upanishads, the living entity is also called Brahman. So the Supreme Lord is also called Brahman. How can you say both are different? Because both are addressed with the same name. So then Madhvacharya asked one of his disciples to get one coconut. So he has a dried coconut. Then he caught and asked the king, what is this? He told it's coconut. Then Madhvacharya asked his disciple to take the peels out. So he took the peels out and asked, what is this, that hard one? And coconut, what is this peels? Then Madhvacharya, he broke the coconut. He took the white part and then told the coconut. What is this? It is the shell. And what is this? The peels. So when all were together, you told coconut. When the peels were removed, you told it's peels and it's coconut. When the shell was removed, you told the shell, it is peels and coconut. So there are three here: the coconut, the peels, and the shell. At the same time, put together, it's one also. So there is oneness as well as there is difference. Achintya Veda Veda, that was taught. The word Brahman is, when it applies to living entity, it's called Jiva Brahman. When it is applying to the super soul, it is called Parabrahman. When it is applied to the matter, it is known as Jada Brahman. So why the soul is called Brahman? Because the soul has the qualities of Brahman. Number one, it is without sin. Number two, this is without aging. And abhapma vicharo vimrutyuhu, there is no death. There is vishoka, there is no lamentation. When vijigraho, no hunger. And with us no thirst. Pipasa is not there. And satyakama, and ultimately satyasankalpa. So like that, there are certain qualities of the soul which are as the qualitative quality of the super soul, of Brahman. A Brahman is Brihat, it is eternal. The soul is also eternal. That is why, since the soul has the qualities of Brahman, soul is also called as Brahman. But that doesn't mean the Jiva Brahman is equal to the Parabrahman. The Jada Brahman, that material nature, is also called Brahman, because material nature is energy of Krishna. That is why there is nothing wrong in using the word Brahman for the living entity and the material nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna uses the word Brahman for indicating material nature. Material nature. Mama yonir mahat brahma tasmin garbham dadamyaham sambhava sarvabhutanam. So Krishna, in this word, he says Brahman. So in the same way here also. Therefore, the description of Brahman mentioned in this verse is in relation with the individual soul. And when the word Brahman is applied to the living entity, it is to be understood that it is Vijnana Brahman as opposed to Ananda Brahma. Again, go back to the Panchakoshas. You have Annamaya, Pranamaya, Jnanamaya, material nature. Vijnanamaya, that is Vijnana, Vijnana Brahma, that is the living entity. Ananda Brahma is the Supreme Lord. So we complete this 13th verse and 14th verse onwards. The description is of the other Geya. Other Geya. The Lord teaches about Paramatma. There are two Geyas, object of knowledge. One is the soul and the super soul. The soul has been described in 13th verse. Now the other object of knowledge, that is super soul, which is going to be described from the 14th verse onwards. We stop here and then do the 14th verse onwards tomorrow and try to see best at how to get this chapter done. I just took a slow pace today so that you get adjusted to the mood of our process of learning with me, and also just a warm-up. Once tomorrow onwards, I'll be a little bit faster. Okay. Hare Krishna. Any questions before we wind up for today?
Prabhuji, I have a question in last verse, which is 19 items of knowledge. So
Okay.
as per it, the agyan, I mean, whatever knowledge that we get from schools and colleges is agyan. So, so how should a devotee deal with that? Because that knowledge is very much required to live in this world and even for professional career also. So how much we should have in deal with that?
You asked the wrong person this question. Unfortunate you are today. What is in the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam, in the Upanishads, in the Ramayana, etc., they are known as Vidya. And the material knowledge is all spiritual knowledge. That is called Vidya. Material knowledge is called Avidya. The Vedic material knowledge is Avidya. Like Ayurveda, like music, Bharatanatyam, śāstrī Sangeet. These are all what? Known as Avidya. Vedic material knowledge is Avidya. Vedic spiritual knowledge is Vidya. And what is being taught in the schools and colleges these days, it is not even Avidya. It is Durvidya. Now tell me, very frankly, what all you learned in your school, is it of any use today?
No, Prabhuji, apart from basic language, ABCD and math.
Of course, if you had learned A, A, E, E, U, then you would have done better English. You would have spoken better English. You can speak French, Spanish, because they are all low-class languages. When you learn a high-class language called Sanskrit, then low-class language is very easy to learn. So, what you are learning in the schools and colleges, and where you are sending your child to a school, that school, Srila Prabhupada, our Guruji, has told it is a slaughterhouse. And that statement that Srila Prabhupada telling that schools these days are slaughterhouses is as good as a statement when he says chant Hare
Krishna Mataji, should we wait or should we leave?
Yeah, I think we should wait for 2 minutes. Yeah, I have received the message from Prabhuji. Class is over for today. So we will resume tomorrow because the Prabhuji's internet is not working. Thank you so much. Jai Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai God Premanande.